Hello, everyone. Welcome to your French learning journey. Today, we are going to learn something very important in French grammar, the gender of nouns and how to use articles correctly. Let's begin slowly. In French, every noun has a gender. That means every word that names a thing, a person, or a place is either masculine or feminine. This is very different from English, where nouns do not have gender. For example, in English, we just say the table or the book. But in French, we must choose the correct article because every noun belongs to a gender category. Now, what is an article? An article is a small word that comes before a noun. It helps us know whether the noun is masculine or feminine and whether we are talking about something specific or something general. There are two main types of articles in French, definite articles and indefinite articles. Let's start with definite articles. They mean the in English. In French, there are four forms of the word the. One form is used for masculine singular nouns, for example, when we say the pen or the book. Another form is used for feminine singular nouns, like the chair or the table. A third form is used before words that begin with a vowel sound or a silent H to make pronunciation smoother. And the last form is used for plural nouns, both masculine and feminine, like the books or the chairs. Usage. We use definite articles when we talk about something specific or already known. For example, the teacher is kind, the students are in class, the window is open. In these sentences, we know exactly which teacher, which students, or which window we are talking about. Now let's look at indefinite articles. They mean a or some in English. We use indefinite articles when we talk about something not specific or not known yet. In English, we say a or an for one thing and some for more than one. In French, these words also change depending on the gender and number of the noun. There are three forms of indefinite articles. One form means a for masculine nouns, like a pen or a book. Another form means a for feminine nouns, like a table or a chair. The last form means some and is used for plural nouns, like some books or some chairs. Usage. Use indefinite articles when you are talking about something in general or for the first time. For example, I have a pen. She bought a book. There are some students in the room. In these examples, we are not referring to a specific pen or a specific student. Here is a helpful tip. When you learn new vocabulary in French, always learn the noun together with its article. This will help you remember whether it is masculine or feminine. For example, instead of learning just pen or book, learn the pen or the book in French. When you learn table, learn the table. That way, you will always remember the correct gender. Let's review some common classroom words in English. We have the pen, the pencil, the book, the table, the chair, the board, the student, the teacher, the door, and the window. In French, each of these nouns has a gender. Some are masculine and some are feminine. The article changes depending on that gender. Let's summarize what we learned today. First, all French nouns have a gender, masculine or feminine. Second, articles change depending on the gender and number of the noun. Third, definite articles mean they and are used for specific things. Fourth, indefinite articles mean a or some and are used for general or new things. And finally, always learn nouns together with their article to remember their gender. Keep practicing, speak slowly, and repeat the words every day. Soon, using French articles will feel natural and easy. Thank you for listening.
Les articles en français. Question: comment dit-on the pen? Réponse: le stylo. Raison: stylo est masculin, donc on utilise le. Question: comment dit-on a chair? Réponse: une chaise. Raison: chaise est féminin, donc on utilise une. Question: comment dit-on the school? Réponse: l'école. Raison: école commence par une voyelle, donc on utilise l'apostrophe, la forme courte de le ou la. Question: comment dit-on some books? Réponse: des livres. Raison: livre est au pluriel, donc on utilise des pour le pluriel indéfini.
Now, we are going to learn a very common and useful French expression. It is il y a, and its negative form il n'y a pas. Let's start step by step. In English, we say there is or there are to talk about the existence of something. In French, the expression il y a means exactly the same thing. There is or there are. It can be used for one thing or for many things. Let's look at the rule and how it works. Rule: il y a means there is or there are. For example, there is a board in the classroom. In French, we would say il y a un board dans la classe. We use il y a followed by the noun or object that exists. So, there is, il y a for one thing. There are, il y a for more than one thing. The phrase stays the same in both cases. We only change the noun that follows. Now let's look at the negative form. The negative form is il n'y a pas de. This means there isn't or there aren't. Here's something very important to remember. After the word pas, the article changes to d or d with apostrophe. This happens even when the noun is plural. So we never say il n'y a pas un or il n'y a pas de. We always say il n'y a pas de plus the noun. For example, there isn't any book. In French, that means il n'y a pas de book. The word de replaces un or de after pas. Let's look at some examples together with explanations. Example 1. Il y a a table. The meaning is there is a table. Why? Because il y a means there is, and we are talking about a single item, one table. Example 2. Il y a des students in the class. The meaning is there are students in the class. Why? Because il y a stays the same, but we use the plural form students after it. So il y a can mean there are when the noun is plural. Example 3. Il n'y a pas de pen. The meaning is there isn't a pen. Why? Because the sentence is negative. In French, after pas, we must use de instead of un, or de. Example 4. Il n'y a pas de with apostrophe students today. The meaning is there aren't any students today. Why? Because students begins with a vowel sound, so we use d with apostrophe instead of d to make pronunciation easier. Let's review what we've learned. Number 1. Il y a means there is or there are. It is used to show that something exists or is present. Number 2. Il n'y a pas de means there isn't or there aren't. It is used to say that something does not exist or is not present. Number 3. After pas, we always use d or d with apostrophe, even for plural nouns. Number 4. Use d with apostrophe before words that begin with a vowel or a silent h, and d before words that begin with a consonant. Here's a quick summary of when to use each form. Use il y a when you want to say something exists. For example, there is a chair or there are books. Use il n'y a pas de when you want to say something does not exist. For example, there isn't a pen or there aren't any students. Keep practicing by describing what you see around you. For example, there is a table, there isn't a pen, there are students, there aren't any books. Practice saying these sentences slowly and clearly every day. Soon you will use il y a and il n'y a pas naturally and correctly in conversation. Now, we are going to learn about partitive articles, words that we use to talk about some or a part of something in French. Let's take it step by step. In English, when we talk about something we cannot count, we often say some or any. For example, I want some water. I eat some bread. There isn't any milk. In French, we use partitive articles to express this idea of some or any. They show that we are talking about an unknown quantity, not the whole thing, and not a specific number. Let's look at the rule. There are four forms of the partitive article in French. Which one we use depends on the gender and number of the noun, and sometimes on the first letter of the word that follows. Here's how it works. We use one form before masculine singular nouns. Example in English, some bread. We use another form before feminine singular nouns. Example in English, some water. We use a third form before words that begin with a vowel or a silent H. Example in English, some orange juice. And we use a fourth form before plural nouns when we talk about several uncountable or countable items. Example in English, some apples. Now let's look at when to use partitive articles. We use them mainly in three situations. First, after verbs that describe eating or drinking, because food and drinks are often things you can't count exactly. For example, I eat some rice, I drink some milk, I have some soup. Second, we use partitive articles when we talk about an undefined quantity of something. For example, she wants some cheese, he bought some sugar, we need some water. Third, we use them when talking about materials or substances, things that don't have a fixed amount or shape. For example, there is some sand on the beach. There is some air in the room. Now let's look at the negative form. In negative sentences, the partitive article becomes d or d with apostrophe, no matter what the gender or number of the noun is. For example, I don't eat bread becomes I don't eat any bread. I don't drink milk becomes I don't drink any milk. There isn't any water becomes there isn't any water at all. So remember, after not, or in negative sentences, we always use d or d with apostrophe to mean any. Let's go over some examples in English to make it clearer. Example 1. I eat some bread. We use the masculine singular form of the partitive article. Why? Because bread is a masculine singular noun and not countable. Example 2. I drink some water. We use the feminine singular form of the partitive article. Why? Because water is feminine and not countable. Example 3. I buy some apples. We use the plural form of the partitive article. Why? Because apples are plural and countable. Example 4. I don't want any sugar. We use d in the negative form. Why? Because after not, the article always becomes d, even if sugar is masculine. Here are a few helpful tips to remember. Number 1. Use partitive articles when you talk about food, drinks, or other things that you can't count. Number 2. Choose the correct form depending on the gender of the noun, masculine, feminine, or plural. Number 3. After a negative expression like not, always change the article to d or d with apostrophe. Number 4. Don't confuse partitive articles with indefinite articles. Indefinite articles mean a or an for single countable items. Partitive articles mean some or any for uncountable or partial amounts. Let's review what we've learned. Partitive articles are used to express some or any in French. They are used with uncountable nouns like food, liquids, or materials. They change form depending on gender and number, and in the negative form, they always become d or d with apostrophe.
Le verbe avoir signifie posséder ou avoir quelque chose. On l'utilise pour parler des objets, de l'âge ou de ce qu'on possède. Écoutons la conjugaison j'ai, tu as, il a, elle a, on a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont, elles ont. Exemple 1. J'ai un livre. Raison, j'ai veut dire je possède un livre et l'objet. Exemple 2. Tu as un stylo? Raison, tu as veut dire tu possèdes, c'est une question avec l'intonation. Le verbe être signifie exister, se trouver ou décrire quelqu'un ou quelque chose. On l'utilise pour les descriptions, les métiers ou la position dans l'espace. Écoutons la conjugaison je suis, tu es, il est, elle est, on est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont, elles sont. Exemple 3. Elle est professeure. Raison, être suivi d'un nom sert à parler d'un métier ou d'un rôle. Exemple 4. Nous sommes en classe. Raison, être indique la localisation ou l'état. En résumé, on utilise avoir pour dire ce qu'on possède. On utilise être pour décrire, parler d'un métier ou dire où on est.
Now, we will learn how to ask questions in French. There are three simple ways to do this, by using intonation, SK, and inversion. Let's start with intonation. This is the easiest way. You take a normal sentence and raise your voice at the end, just like in English when you ask a question. For example, you like music? Said with a rising tone. That's it. No new words, only a change in your voice. It's very common in spoken and casual French. The second way is by using que. You simply put que at the beginning of a sentence. The meaning is like saying do or does in English. For example, do you like music becomes est-ce que you like music? It's polite and works in most situations, perfect for formal or neutral speech. The third way is inversion. Here, you switch the order of the subject and the verb. For example, you like music becomes like you music. It sounds more formal and is often used in writing or polite speech. So, to summarize, use intonation for casual conversations. Use est-ce que for polite, everyday questions. Use inversion for formal or written French. All three mean the same thing, only the formality changes. Keep practicing these three ways, and soon, asking questions in French will feel easy and natural. Now, we are going to learn how to give instructions in French. This is called the imperative form. We use the imperative to tell someone to do something. For example, listen, open your book, or look at the board. Here's the rule. In the imperative, we do not use the subject pronoun. So we don't say you open or you listen. We simply say open or listen. There are three forms, one for you, singular, one for we, and one for you, plural or polite. For example, open your book. Let's look at the page. Listen and repeat. To be polite, we can add please. We say please differently depending on who we speak to. Please for one person, s'il te plaît, and please for the whole class or politely, s'il vous plaît. Now let's look at some examples. Example 1. Listen, said to one student. Example 2. Listen, please, said politely to the class. Example 3. Open your book to page 10. A classroom instruction. We use the imperative verb, then the object, and finally the location or page. So remember, the imperative is used for commands or directions. No subject is needed. Add please to make it polite. Keep practicing by giving small classroom instructions in French, like listen, read, or repeat.
Maintenant, nous allons apprendre les jours de la semaine et les matières à l'école. Écoutons d'abord les jours de la semaine, lundi, mardi, mercredi, jeudi, vendredi, samedi, dimanche. En français, les jours de la semaine ne prennent pas de majuscules. Pour parler d'une habitude, on utilise le « devant le jour ». Par exemple, le lundi veut dire tous les lundis. Voyons maintenant les matières scolaires, le français, les mathématiques ou les maths, l'anglais, la science ou les sciences, l'histoire, la géographie, la musique, l'éducation physique qu'on appelle souvent EPS, l'informatique et les arts plastiques. Regardons quelques exemples. Exemple 1. J'ai français le lundi. Raison, le lundi indique une habitude tous les lundis. Exemple 2. Nous avons la musique le vendredi. Raison, le vendredi indique le jour de la semaine où la classe de musique a lieu. Exemple 3. À quelle heure tu as les maths? Raison, à quelle heure sert à demander lors d'une activité scolaire? Réponse, j'ai les maths à 9 heures. Raison, à 9 heures indique l'heure exacte du cours. En résumé, utilisez le avant le jour pour parler d'une habitude. Et pour parler de vos cours, dites « j'ai plus la matière plus le plus jour ». Exemple, j'ai anglais le mardi. J'ai histoire le mercredi. J'ai EPS le jeudi. L'heure et les moments de la journée. Exemple, le cours commence à 8 heures. Raison, à 8 heures indique l'heure précise du début du cours. La récréation est l'après-midi? Non, c'est le matin. Raison, le matin signifie le moment de la journée le matin, pas l'après-midi. Les connecteurs simples. Exemple, j'ai français et maths le matin. Raison, et relie deux matières français et maths. J'aime l'école, mais je n'aime pas les devoirs. Raison, mais exprime une opposition j'aime une chose, mais pas l'autre. D'abord je vais à l'école, ensuite je mange. Raison, d'abord et ensuite servent à indiquer l'ordre des actions. Exercice les articles définis. Écoutez et complétez avec le bon article défini, le, la, elle ou les. 1. Le stylo. Raison, stylo est masculin. 2. L'école. Raison, école commence par une voyelle, donc on utilise elle. 3. Le professeur. Raison, professeur est masculin. 4. La fenêtre. Raison, fenêtre est féminin. 5. Les élèves. Raison, élève est au pluriel, donc on utilise les. Maintenant, écoutons et transformons les phrases au négatif. A. Il y a un stylo. Il n'y a pas de stylo. Raison, après pas, un devient de. B. Il y a des chaises. Il n'y a pas de chaises. Raison, après pas, des devient de. C. Il y a une fenêtre. Il n'y a pas de fenêtre. Raison, après pas, une devient de.